The Specialized Diverge 2021 range. If you could only have one bike, maybe this is the one to have. So there's a pretty wide spectrum of bikes that you can buy these days, and the gravel bike kind of falls directly in the middle really. It can do a bit of this and it can do a bit of that. So maybe it's that one do-it-all bike that you need and you can get rid of all the rest. Did you know that the genetic similarity between a human and a cow is 80%? And with that in mind, what do you get if you take a Specialized Tarmac, maybe a little bit of Roubaix, combine those two together, then also maybe throw in a little bit of the Specialized Chisel hardtail mountain bike. Throw a bit of that into the mix. You guessed it, today's bike. All hail the Diverge. This is the S-Works version, top of the range. Absurdly expensive at £8,899. SRAM Red ETAP Access Group Set, kind of, because you've got the XX1 Eagle set up on the back. Dropper post, 38mm tyres. Looks pretty tasty, huh? Now if we compare that to the previous model, you can see that Specialized have done quite a number on the new 2021 version. She's longer. Bottom bracket's a bit higher up. And we've got rid of the shopping basket, thank goodness. We've gone from the Future Shock 1 to the Future Shock 2. The old version could fit up to a 42mm tyre. In the new version you can fit in a pretty whopping 47mm size tyre, or you can go down to a 650B wheel and fit up to a 2.1 inch, what I guess is a mountain bike tyre. But the 2020 version was obviously inspired by some crazy trip that they went on, and the 2021 version was obviously based on a grisly old bit of rusty metal. Now it wasn't about this point now that I was going to tell you all about gears, and I recorded a bit that was about 10 minutes long, but it was so boring I've decided to cut it out. The bottom line is that this range of bikes comes with a very wide scope of gearing choices, and by all means pause this and have a look at it. But have a think about what sort of terrain you're going to be riding on, and then I'd go into a shop and talk to someone about it, because it's quite complicated if you don't know what you're doing. And that, my friends, is enough about gears right now. The new Diverge comes with the SWAT feature, taken from the Specialized mountain bike range, and I think this is an awesome feature. I'd like to have this on my road bike. I hate carrying a saddlebag. What I do find odd is SWAT to me means Special Weapons and Tactics, so a highly trained elite fighting force, but to Specialized it means storage, water, air and tools. Not quite as glamorous, and amazingly they've been allowed to trademark it. Not quite sure how they got away with that. So a lot of these bikes come with the Future Shock 2, which is a little spring and damper in the top of the steering tube with a little knob on the top which allows you to dial it back and forth. This was developed for the Roubaix bike, and if you watched Philippe Gilbert win Paris-Roubaix in 2019, you could actually see him making use of that as he came on and off the cobbles. So it clearly works. The only slight problem with it is it's ugly as hell, in my opinion. So next down in the range, coming in at a still pretty eye-watering £5,999, is the Pro Carbon, which has got most of the same features as the top of the range S-Works, except in a cheaper package. So it's using the cheaper X01 gearing at the back here. The dropper post has been replaced with what Specialized is saying is a carbon post designed to flex in all the right places. Not often you can pull up Specialized on the photography of their bikes, but you've got to wonder what would happen when you pulled this front brake on this Pro Carbon. I don't think a great deal is going to happen, because that brake is not in the right position. Also, something that does bother me is this is a bit untidy round here, and if you look at the top of the range photo they've taken, this one obviously isn't fitted properly because it's standing up. I'd rather see that a bit tidier. Other thing of note is this is 9R carbon, so this is a cheaper carbon to the top of the range S-Works version. Something I do wonder about is a lot of these bikes come with the tubeless Pathfinder Pro tyres. It took me a couple of minutes to realise that tubeless was tubeless. I'm not the sharpest tool in the box, but then Specialized are listing inner tubes on their website. So does that mean they're putting on tubeless tyres with inner tubes in, and then you've got to set up the tubeless yourself? Is that right? Unlike Giant that are supplying their bikes set up tubeless. So the question is, should manufacturers manufacturers be supplying their bikes tubeless? Are we ready for that now? What do you think? Leave a comment down below. I think probably yes. I set my road bike up with GP5000 tubeless tyres on my Hunt wheels the other day. Been riding them for about 2 weeks. I started off with about 80 psi front and rear. I've now reduced that down to 65 psi, and on the hideous roads around here that have all just been surface dressed with gravel, I can see a definite improvement with these tubeless tyres at lower pressures. They're really good. More comfortable. I would say just as fast even with those lower pressures. So all good. In other news, I replaced the cable discs on my winter bike with the Tiagra hydraulic disc brakes and shifters, and I was so pleased with the result. The levers feel amazing. Brakes are brilliant. I decided to invent the Thank You Shimano Day, and I was going to make a video all about it. I was quite excited about it. So I went out for a ride to come up with some ideas for this great new day that I was going to invent, and then my gears started jumping, which drove me completely insane, and then I had to buy a new cassette and a new chain. And then I realised that Shimano have got a very large proportion of every penny I've ever earned in my life, so I decided to cancel the Thank You Shimano Day. I think they've probably had enough from me. Okay, let's get this show back on the road. That was the Pro Carbon. Next down in the range, we've got the Expert Carbon GRX Di2 single chainring, and spoiler alert, this is my favourite paint scheme of the new Diverges. I think that looks rather tasty. I'd be up for some of that. I think I prefer it to just the plain red. Yeah, I like that a lot. This is the first time I've really looked at the GRX shifters, and they're quite a weird shape, aren't they? Quite a lot different there to the SRAM shifters. So I'm digging that. I think that's a rather tasty looking bike, and that is the Expert Carbon. Still too expensive, but if I could afford it, yeah, why not? Okay, moving on. The Comp Carbon. This one's got a double chainring GRX setup. And this is what I was talking about on the gearing front. Obviously quite different. All other respects pretty similar really to the Expert, other than the fact we've gone down to mechanical gearing from the electronic shifting. Not so keen on that colour scheme. Okay, so let's move on. And this is where things get kind of interesting. Bingo. The Diverge Expert E5 Evo. Flat bar Shimano XT 2399. Now interestingly, most Specialized bikes come in a wider range of sizes. The Evo only comes in 3 sizes, small, medium and large. And it's a bit odd that it's been clumped into the Diverge range, because it really is very different. As you can see there, the geometry is completely different. It's flat bar. It kind of looks like a hybrid / mountain bike from the 80s. So, hey, you know, Specialized obviously know something that has made them think that this is going to make them money. It'd be interesting to see how they get on with it. So let us know what you think down in the comments below. Hot or not? Right, back on track with the more conventional Diverge range. One is the Base Carbon. And this is still £2,199, but we've lost a fair few of the features here. Future Shock 2 has become Future Shock 1. I believe that just allows you to change the springs inside, there's no damping on it. SWAT has gone, it's been swatted, which is a shame, and we've got a much more conventional seat post. So there we have it, the Base Carbon, more affordable, but you're going to lose some features there. And it's at this point now in the range where we drop down to aluminium, other than obviously the Evo that we looked at before. So there's the cheapest carbon bike that you can buy in the Diverge range. And now at $1,999 we're on to the aluminium range. Slight change in geometry as well. It's a tiny bit longer, slightly longer chainstays. No SWAT, Future Shock 1, and this particular one, slightly peculiar colour. But if that's your thing, I suspect that's quite a solid bike really. Or if the Evo floated your boat, but you couldn't afford the one that we looked at before, we have the Comp E5 Evo, which is the cheaper version of it. Still got the dropper post, interestingly, 1599. Could this be the bike you're looking for? And this has dropped down to the SRAM NX group set. Or as we get lower and lower down the range, we've got the Elite E5 aluminium version, which has done away with the Future Shock altogether, and this looks like a much more bog standard type of bike. And in fact, again, the frame has different geometry to this aluminium version. So Specialized are making an awful lot of frames for this Diverge range. And these come in quite a few sizes as well. And then last and, well, kind of least, because it's the least money, 949, we've got the base E5 aluminium Diverge. We've dropped all the way down to the Claris group set. So that's quite a basic group set there. No bells and whistles. I suspect it works okay. And for the money, probably quite a solid bike. Don't even mind that colour too much. The other thing just to look out for, on this version you've got the cable disc brakes, which personally I won't be buying again, so that counts me out on this one. Let's look at the competition for this new Diverge range. So let's have a look around the £2,000 range, and with that you get the base carbon from Specialized. And if we compare that to the Giant offering, a bit cheaper, we've got the Revolt Advance 2. Slightly more compact design there from Giant. This bike has the same frame used on the Advance Pro, so it makes it a good option for upgrading in the future if you fancy doing that. It has the defused seat post and seat tube and handlebars, which all have built-in flex with the added benefit of no moving parts. Both the Giant and the Specialized have these curved seat tubes, which allows more tyre clearance and shorter chainstays, and also it offers some compliance here. I think this looks like a good option here from Giant. The only thing I'm not keen on is that weird looking seat, but you can always change that. Okay, next up, the Canyon Grail CF SL 7.0, 50 quid cheaper. And if you want a very different looking bike to your mates, this is the one to go for, because it's all very strange up here. So this is the Canyon CP07 Gravel Cockpit CF. It's a love it hate it affair. I believe it gets good reviews, but kind of a personal choice whether you like the look of it really. Same with the frame, very interesting looking design. So compare that with the Diverge, quite a different proposition. Now then, another bike that you might consider, somewhat more expensive at 2,800, is the The Checkpoint SL5. It's actually quite a lot heavier than the Canyon. The Canyon was under 9 kilos, but that's a good looking bike, isn't it? I like the colour of that, and I'm a bit of a sucker for stripes on bikes. And when you get the Trek, it comes with the ISO speed decoupler, which is going to offer a bit of comfort on the rough stuff. And on the Trek website, if you go and have a look, there's some nice photos of it against this black background, which I think look rather nice. I think it's a good looking bike. So another bike you might be thinking about, the Topstone Carbon from Cannondale, 2100. Slightly odd looking beast, which is quite often the case from Cannondale. I'll probably get shot down in flames for that. So Cannondale are calling this an unprecedented gravel bike with real suspension. And when they say real suspension, we're talking about this bit here. Unlike mountain bikes, there's no actual shock involved there. What we've got is a through-axle pivot here, and we have flex zones in the carbon layup, in the chainstays, and the seat tube, and even in the top tube. That results in 30mm of rear travel, which is quite an interesting concept really, isn't it? So there we go, these manufacturers are all coming up with new ideas for this comfort business. So there's many companies making gravel bikes now, but the last one I wanted to have a quick look at to compare is this one from Scott. It's the Addict Gravel 30, slightly more expensive. And is it just me, or does Scott call an awful lot of their bikes the Addict? I think maybe they could come up with some different names. So just looking at the website for this Scott bike, there's really not much in the description to talk about really. So if you've got one of these, drop a comment down below and let us know what you think of it. Right, so there we go. That was a quick look at some of the competition. Like I say, there's lots of companies making gravel bikes now, so there's plenty to choose from. But the last thing we're going to look at in this video is I added all those bikes from the Diverge range and from Scott, Cannondale, Trek, Giant and Canyon, stuck them all in a spreadsheet, and you got 47 bikes to choose from there, all different price ranges, and there's a few standout things to look at here. So if we just look at the bikes coming in at under £2,000, they're all aluminium other than our first carbon entry battery here from Giant, which is the Revolt Advance 3 1749. So if that's your budget, under £2,000, and you want carbon, that's your only choice. Otherwise you're looking at aluminium. If however you can stretch your budget a little bit higher than that, you've got a good range of bikes to choose from there, including 2 of the Diverge models that we've just looked at. What this does show is that Specialized are expecting you to pay quite a premium for an aluminium bike here on this Evo that they've introduced. Again, another interesting decision there. Then between 3,000 and 5,000, we've got quite a split here, but again plenty to choose from, including 2 of the Diverges. This was my favourite one here, the Diverge Expert Carbon, and just shy of £5,000. That is well outside my budget, so I won't be bringing one of those home anytime soon. And then at the top end, it does look like people aren't quite ready to spend the big bucks on the gravel bike. I'm not sure how many S-Works Specialized are going to sell. That'd be quite interesting stat to know, wouldn't it? You obviously do get more for your money, but if you compare it to the cheapest Diverge that you can get, it's actually 9 times more expensive. So you could actually get 9 of the cheap version and set up a little hire business, hiring out gravel bikes, maybe make some money. Right, so there we go. I hope you found this video useful. If you're looking at possibly getting yourself a Specialized Diverge, I'll leave you here with this picture of my favorite one. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing to my channel.